Cybernetic Crescent sparked a bit of debate amongst the community. Some seem to like it, while others have some criticisms. I have the latter opinion, while MatMart, another awesome Geometry Dash content creator, has the former. This video is all about our discussion about the matter. I will start sharing why I believe Cybernetic Crescent failed, where MatMart will then follow, sharing his response to my thoughts. At the end, you can form your own opinion. So, without further ado, let's just dive right into this. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. I am sure we all know that Cybernetic Crescent is a sequel to Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent. One of the things I believe Cybernetic Crescent fails at is staying coherent with these two prequels. The thing is, Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent, while released in different updates, were relatively close together. However, Cybernetic Crescent was released over 3 years after Digital Descent, so there is undoubtedly going to be a lack of coherency between Cybernetic Crescent and its two prequels. However, there are level series out there that have long wait time between their installations and came out decently well. So why did Cybernetic Crescent fall apart in this regard? Well, that is because of something its two prequels actually forgot. Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent both lacked a theme. While I know Viprin did say there was a vague theme of futuristic, I would argue that this theme is too vague and unapparent to even count. The only reason Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent look somewhat similar is because they were made relatively close together. So much so that despite being in two completely different updates, the standards and style at the time hadn't really changed much. But in recent times with Cybernetic Crescent, the standards and creator styles have changed drastically. And because Cybernetic Crescent never had a theme to compensate for this, it ends up not feeling like an installation of the series. So the fact that Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent never had a theme actually came back to haunt Cybernetic Crescent down the road. Another level that suffered a similar fate is Hypersonic. When it was released, the community didn't think so fond of it. This is because both previous Sonic levels, Supersonic and Ultrasonic, never had any consistent themes. So when revisiting the series 3 years later, it failed in this regard, just like Cybernetic Crescent. One way I feel this could have worked out would be if there was a level to possibly bridge the gap. Now hear me out. As I already said numerous times in this video, Cybernetic Crescent came out 3 years after Digital Descent, while the wait time between Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent was only a few months. I feel that Cybernetic Crescent simply came too late, meaning it really needed something to guide it to this change. We already discussed earlier that Cybernetic Crescent is disconnected from the original two because of the long wait time, but I feel that if there were a level to bridge the gap, things would feel a lot more coherent. eBay, you know, that popular e-commerce site? Back in the early days of the internet, they had a yellow background on their site. One day, they changed it to white and received a lot of backlash, but in a smart move, they changed it back to yellow, but slowly made it lighter and lighter as time passed. In about a year, the background was white and nobody complained. Now, comparing this to a Geometry Dash level series may seem like a stretch, but I think there is a lesson to be learned here. If there was another level between Digital Descent and Cybernetic Crescent to guide the change in style, the community would have probably complained much less. While this may just seem like a placebo effect, it is still something to consider, and nevertheless, this effect works and it works well. I believe that if there were a level to bridge the gap between Digital Descent and Cybernetic Crescent, despite both looking very different, it would at least feel a little more coherent and perhaps compensate for the lack of a theme in Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent. So that's my take on things, but MatMart has another viewpoint he wants you to consider.
Immediately, Moldy makes the assumption that AA and DD have far more coherency than DD and CC, which just isn't the case. In fact, I'd say it's the exact opposite. Let me name off similarities between DD and CC first. Interestingly enough, both of Samifying's parts represent different halves of Sedulous. It's also difficult to not notice the similar styles that Devon, Viprin, Heinz, and Serponge's parts have. There's no lack of references to Artificial Ascent, as Codex and Terron's part are good reminders in terms of gameplay type. That's a lot of creators, which is another point. The cast between the last two levels and the first two levels is a lot more consistent this time around. But what about the standout creators like Edser, Carmel, and Laserblitz? They have really weird parts that don't fit with the rest of the level very well. Sound familiar? This weird font part, Shoxidian's part, and the inconsistency of the level's decoration ironically ends up giving it consistency. Despite the obvious similar naming theme, I think upon seeing Codex's part, anyone would see the clear similarities, and it feels like a necessary next step in the Ascent series. Alright, look, after making this video, a lot of people consider this the Technology Trilogy now. That's a good name. Although, I still have Moldy's second point, differences. Things like Kip's, Nasgub, and Terron's part feel completely foreign to something like AA. So for me, either all of them are consistent or none of them are. And either way, considering all the clean transitions, I'd give the trophy to Cybernetic Crescent in consistency. There definitely could have been another level to bridge the gap, and that would have helped the community's perception, although as mentioned before, I think the way things turned out is perfectly fine. That's really all I had to say, so thanks to Moldy for inviting me to this video project.
So those were our takes on Cybernetic Crescent, a level which truly divided the community. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to myself and MatMart, another fantastic content creator who I highly recommend you to check out. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed and have a great day, as always.